All right, I got the 2022 USA overall champion, Stuart Sutherland, and everybody knows his beef stew. What's happening, Stu?
Hey man, how you doing?
Good, good. Thanks for being here, bro. So before we came on, you said that you won the USA and you jumped right into Tampa as a 212 or open competitor.
Open, yeah. I was like 246, 247 at the
Really?
USA's. So yeah, it was just like a total shotgun decision. I talked to Steve right after the show and he was like, yeah, why not? So I jumped into it. I just wanted to see like, what do I look like next to, open guys.
Yeah.
Cause I mean, going to the USA's, that was my first national show. I didn't really know what I'd look like in that lineup. So I figured I'd get my feet wet at the next level too and see what I got to fix and so forth. And my like I knew I needed to bring up my arms a lot and my back a lot. My legs were pretty close to where they need to be,
Mm.
um, but yeah. So I mean, it's been like seven or 8 months since the
Yeah.
Tampa now. So I had a short little off season.
All right.
I made some decent progress though. I mean, I think I'm probably gonna be like 7 or 8 pounds heavier, like sort of low mid 250s.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
the first thing I got to say is that was your first national level show and you won the overall.
yeah,
And how
yeah.
old are you?
26.
Yeah.
That was 20.
Okay. So you're basically destined to be an elite level bodybuilder.
We'll see. I mean, it
I mean,
hasn't. I didn't
any
run into any walls yet, so
anytime I see a guy that could turn pro that easy, boom, boom, it's just everything just comes. They generally just shoot right to the top. So it seems like, and from the pictures I saw, it doesn't look like you have any, drawbacks. It doesn't look like you have any real kinks in your armor. It looks like you're a pretty complete bodybuilder. You have to me, you have a Jordan Peters look, only smaller waist, better quality. If that makes any sense. I don't know if you ever
yeah.
heard that before, but
I've heard. Yeah, people have told me that it's mostly just like in the most muscular shot. I like
yeah,
kind of like him, and I'm a big fan of him. I've been following his content for like years.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, my thing is set up pretty similar to the way that he does his.
Mm,
I was on his forum forever as well. I just kind of like watch his videos and stuff on there.
right.
Um, and I mean, I've always been a fan of him because he's a guy that like by all rights should not have been a serious competitive bodybuilder, but he took like what he had, which is like work ethic
Mhm.
and drive and got. I mean, he's probably never going to be like an ifbb pro, right? He's just not cut out for it. But he took it about as far as he possibly could, just
Mhm.
based on size and conditioning.
Right.
And when I'm looking at like people who I look up to and stuff, like Nate's a good example of this.
Yeah.
Although he's got pretty good shape too. Like, he's somebody who just kept on showing up and getting better and better each year. He's really
Yeah.
conditioned, he's big, and finally got his card.
Right.
And now his debut. Well, no, I guess he did Boston last year, but yeah.
Yeah. I think Nate is going to shock everybody. Nobody is talking about him. I mean, we are talking about him because we know him and he's on my panel. So the panel is talking about him. But I think Nate is going to show up and shock a lot of people because his progress picks now, and he's got how long? He's got about 5 weeks left. His
Yeah,
progress
like
picks
four and a half.
now. Oh, he did a guest posing, and I was blown away. I was like, wow, he looks
Yeah,
fucking good.
you look good there.
Um,
Yeah,
okay,
I got to
so
start talking more shit to him. Can't let that guy
yeah. um, all right. So how many NPC shows did you do before you did a national level show? If you say one,
um,
I'm stopping the interview right
no,
here.
I did the same show 3 times. So my first one, I started training in like kind of when I got to college in 2015 ish.
Yeah.
I was a drunk frat kid for a little while, but I was lifting weights, and then I kind of got more and more into bodybuilding. And then I did my first show in 2017 up in
Mhm.
Washington. There's a show up there called the Emerald Cup. Um,
Okay.
it's like the biggest show in the Northwest. That's where I'm from originally. I did it in 2017, and then 2019 I did it. I did the heavyweights. I was like 212, 214, and then I did a third time and finally won it in 21. And I was like kind of top of the heavyweights there. Uh, really kind of like over dieted, sucked down look, but you know, I was in good shape. That was the first time I really got in like true condition.
Right.
And then 21 to 22, I had about 15 months between the Emerald Cup and the USA's, and I put on like 25 pounds in that time frame. It was a really good off season. I didn't really do anything particularly different. Like I was still force feeding myself like crazy.
I was
I
gonna
was
say
on
you had to be eating more.
hormone like that. My coach Blue is on. He's big on GH.
Yeah.
And but besides that, like I didn't ramp up my drug dosages a ton. You know, I just kind of I turned like 25 and I just kind of hit a good stride. And it stuck to me, and I was like super heavy at the USA. It's just like that. So
I love to hear how much you guys eat because, you know, I go to two different gyms. I go to Signature in New Jersey, and then I go to LA Fitness because my mom still lives in New York, and once you join one, you're able to go to any of them. So when I go visit my mother, like blah 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 blah. But I always go at about 3:30, 4 o'clock. So I get out of work at 3. So there's a bunch of high school kids there all the time. And, you know, they pick my brain or I try to help them out and everything. And I'm like, well, if you got to gain weight, if you want to gain weight, you got to eat. And they're like, I do eat. And I'm like, all right, what's your first meal? And
I eat so much. Yeah. Like,
yeah. They're like,
1%?
yeah, I have 2 eggs and a bagel. I'm like, okay, that's not eating. So I love asking pro bodybuilders that put on that much weight and showing and asking them what they consume a day. So just give us a breakdown of what you have to consume in order for you to get to that weight that you. What were you on stage? 250, 240?
I was like 246.
Yeah.
Throughout.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I've always had to force feed myself. Like I just don't have an appetite, which it sucks for like 3/4 of the year. And then, I mean, I didn't get hungry in this prep until like a week ago. So it's been really smooth so far. So it's kind of a blessing first, but I mean, basically it's all chicken, rice. I have a little beef in there. But my carbs got up to like 1,100, 1,200 at their highest last year when I got up to like the low 290s before I started this prep this year. And it's disgusting. You got a gut all day, you're never hungry, you always feel gross, can't wipe your ass, but
it's that's what it was one of my drawbacks. I can never be as as good as you guys because I didn't have the genetics, but I hated stuffing myself. I was like, what am I doing? I'm not even, this is ridiculous. And I just stopped. And one of the most disgusting stories is I ask almost every pro bodybuilder, what kind of food they eat and how many calories they take in. But the best story I ever heard is I actually interviewed Dave Palumbo, and it's on this channel. It's on one of the first interviews. And he described the shakes he used to make. And he was describing it to me. I almost threw up. I'm like, that's disgusting. Did you ever hear his shakes?
No, what did he put in there? I just know about the McDonald's.
Yeah, the McDonald's too. That was every day was a McDonald's, but he would put 12 whole eggs, but he wouldn't put them in the raw because he was afraid of salmonella poisoning. So he put them in the microwave first, so they were like gooey and they were warm. So it wasn't even like a cold shake. So we would put 12 whole eggs. He would put back then, the only protein back then was Metrics. You're talking the 90s. Yeah. So he would put a packet of Metrics in. He would put oats, apple juice, and I forgot what else. Whatever he would describe, you got to watch it. And he would use the old school blender. Remember the old 1990s, 1980s blender was glass and he had a top on it. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
And he would mix it and it would get all the way all to the top, and the thing was heavy, and he used to drink it above his sink, and he used to drink the whole thing, and then he'd have to stay there for like 5 minutes, hopefully not throw up. And then if he did throw up, he said he would make it all over again.
Oh God.
Yeah.
So about a guy who like took his genetics.
Yeah.
And
he's another one.
Like the dream, like the guy was a fucking runner in high school.
Yeah.
He's like $140 and he competed at like 270 or something. It's insane.
Yeah, he was a monster. But let's get back to you. So you did.
Actually, I got a kind of story like that too. I didn't put any like whole eggs in a shake, but when I first realized I had to eat a lot, I was like, fuck, okay, I gotta get calories in. So I would get gallons of chocolate milk from the supermarket, and I just make shakes of chocolate milk, peanut butter, oats, and whey. And I'd have it was my first meal, my last meal. I was drinking like half a gallon of chocolate milk a day. and not lactose intolerant, but that's a half gallon of milk
Yeah.
plus the sugar and bullshit in there, and it would just, oh my god, yeah, it was stinky.
Yeah,
It
that's
worked,
fucking
man.
horrible. Yeah, listen, whatever works, but and okay, so were you living with your parents at the time when you started bulking? Because I remember when I was a kid and I started eating a lot, it scared the shit out of my parents. They're like, "There's no food. What are you doing?" You
Yeah,
know.
fortunately not. Yeah, my mom's not a fan
Oh,
of this whole bodybuilding thing generally, but
all right.
whenever I'm home, she's like, "Why don't you eat my food?" I'm like, "Mom, I've told you this." But yeah, I was in college at the time, fortunately.
Oh, okay. All right. So you win the Emerald Cup, and then do you go right to the Nationals?
Well,
I'm
it was
sorry,
like
did you go right to the
15 months.
USA's?
It was like 15 months. So in 21, I was thinking about doing the USA's in 21, but there was like a 14-week gap between the E Cup and USA's.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I was fucking fed up with dieting at that point. So I was like, I'm going to do it next year, show up like, legit big,
Yeah,
have a good season and make some serious improvements because there were a lot of gaps in me at that point still. And, that ended up being the right decision. I don't think I could have won an overall in 21, but 22 I got straight ones. So
that's
big,
great.
a lot of progress there. So that was the right decision. Um, and, now I'm kind of like, I was watching your show from a few days ago with Kamali and
Oh, the
you know,
MD show. Yeah.
yeah, you guys were talking about who's going to the New York, and there's a couple of guys. I got like a list on my whiteboard at work of the guys who are doing it,
Oh,
but
really?
there's a lot of big names. There's like Nate, there's Carlos,
Yeah.
uh, Eric Wood actually won overall at North Americans in 21. He was a
I'll look.
heavyweight back.
I'll look him up. I'm not sure.
He's a really handsome looking kid. No homo, but like he's a good. I think he's from Pittsburgh. I think
Okay.
somewhere around there. He's doing it. He's another young guy. I think he's like 25, 26.
Yeah.
Brent Swanson, you know him?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, he's like he's not put together great, but gigantic.
Okay.
Um, Gets really good condition. He's one of Chad's guys. But like I'm looking at the lineup, Sergio might jump into it,
I was
but
thinking
besides
about
that,
that. Yeah.
yeah, because he couldn't make the Brazil
Brazil.
show.
Yeah.
Actually, the guy who got third in Brazil, Amir, that young guy, he's like 24 or something. I,
Yeah.
I think he's probably going to do it. He did
Yeah.
pretty good at New York last year too.
I got to
But
take a look. I got to take a look at these guys that you're mentioning because I have not taken a look. I don't know why there's not too many names doing the New York Pro. I mean, like I don't get it. Like you could punch your ticket to do the Olympia if like a Ian Valier did it or a Kuklo or any one of those guys that those like kind of top 20 guys. I don't know. I don't know what's going on this year. But I
I
do
think a
know
lot of
that
it was like the Olympia was late, and then the Arnold was an awkward amount of time after that. So some of the guys stuck around, some of them dropped out, signed
yeah.
up for the right, and now this is like the first show of the season besides the Arnold, and
Mhm.
um, a lot of people are targeting the stuff in the middle of the year, and that's where all the fireworks are going to happen. Those are going to be the big fun shows, I think, to watch.
Yeah,
But
you
it's
happen to be right, which is sad. Usually New York Pro has a pretty good lineup, you know.
yeah, yeah. The last couple of years have been kind of hit or miss. I'm surprised. Justin Rodriguez, right?
Yeah.
He,
Yeah.
he like always does it. He's a New York guy,
Yeah.
and the guy, dude, he looked beat up at
Yeah.
the Arnold Classic because he just been competing like for a year straight, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's probably gone through hell. But he needs a break. And I think a lot of these guys, like, you don't consider it as a fad necessarily, but if you're on like a contest prep cycle for like 3/4 of the year, boy, your insides are going to be, pretty ugly if you
Yeah.
get your
Yeah.
work done at the end of it. And, they need to we need to take breaks.
Yeah.
And, you ask why don't people compete more? Because like, we got to take a lot of drugs sometimes to get in shape for these shows and, to make progress in the off season or whatever. Not everybody, but like,
Yeah.
um, you know, get I think there's a lot more consciousness about health nowadays compared to like 10, 15 years ago,
Yeah,
which is a good thing. And people are getting their blood work done. And if they're spooked enough, maybe they pull back and, you know,
yeah,
take some
yeah,
time.
yeah. That could very well be it. But when you did the USA, go before you went in, were you did you not know what to expect, or did you know you can go in there and take it?
Well, so I knew that. So I'm about 5'8". I knew I was going to be in like the 240s on stage. So like you look at like pro level guys at about that height, they're in like the 240 to 250 range, roughly, like 240 to 260. So I look at those numbers. I've got decent shape. I've got some lagging body parts, right? But like, okay, so I feel like I fit in the lineup there. But you never really know until you're standing there next, because you know somebody might weigh the same as you, but be twice as wide in the shoulders, and you just
Mm.
look like a child next to them.
Right,
I
right,
didn't really know how I'd line up in that respect next to like national level guys, because a lot of those guys they get there because they're put together good.
yeah. There's a lot of good dudes. Yeah, I
And
get that.
yeah, and so I didn't really know what that would look like structurally, but I turns out I am pretty wide. Like I don't look out of place in a lineup like that. So
Mm-hmm.
and my condition was, I'd say it was good. It wasn't like really good, like I kind of wanted it to be last year. I'm gonna push a little bit harder this year and try to get, I got another year training under my belt. I'm a year older.
Right,
That
right,
help get a little bit more mature and harder and
right.
stuff. But, I don't have, I'm looking at the lineup, right? Um, Carlos is like I've been saying this for months now. If Carlos is in shape, we're all fucked,
Yeah,
right?
it's the truth. It's the truth. He's a freak of nature, man. It's
Yeah,
unbelievable.
like generational kind of talent. But um, my only chance of beating a guy like that is to just like be more conditioned than them.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. He doesn't post pictures ever, so I have no
Nah,
clue what he looks.
me neither.
Which is nerve wracking, but also like I don't know. Um, so if he shows up in shape, there's nothing you can do, right?
Right.
But if I'm significantly more conditioned than him, I'm not going to beat him on like roundness and like muscularity and stuff. But Steve likes guys shredded.
Oh yeah,
That's
of course.
all he says when he sees people pose nowadays. He's like, just get peeled, just get peeled. Don't worry about getting small, just get peeled. And so I mean, I'm a little ahead of schedule right now. I think conditioning wise, I got like 4 or 5 weeks to go. So I think I should be able to
So
be a little
you're
better.
gonna be doing the New York Pro?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
yeah,
Oh, I apologize. I did not know you were doing the New York Pro. Okay. All
yeah.
right,
Sorry,
cool.
I should have said that. Yeah, I'm doing New York, and then I'm going to do Cali the next weekend. I think I'm just going to call it after that because I got a job and everything, like
Yeah.
most pros do, right? And I can't be useless for too long from the
Yeah,
diet.
no, absolutely. Until it gets to the point where you are making enough money where you could just be a full-time bodybuilder, it becomes very difficult. So before we get to before, yeah, you will. Well, before we get to the New York Pro and how you're prepping for it, when you won the USA, I mean, that was your first national level show. Did that give you a tremendous amount of confidence going into the pro show, or were you kind of like now it's like welcome to the NFL rookie? Were you back to being nervous, or were you like, I'm gonna take
Yeah,
it?
it was more like number two, honestly. Like I knew my goal there was to like see what I look like next to those guys.
Mhm.
Just like going to the USA's, I didn't know what I'd look like in a lineup. And I figured out, okay, I got some weak points I got to bring up. I still need to work on my back a ton more, but I put like an inch and a half onto my arms in the off season. Like, fortunately, my waist stayed the same size. Like I was saying, I got a gut the whole off season, but it always comes back down.
Yeah,
And so I wasn't going in there thinking I was Derek Lunsford or anything,
right,
because he
right, right.
won the USA and won Tampa, and then he was at the
That's right.
Olympics. That's I'm not delusional. But I was just like, what the hell? As far as I'm concerned at that point, like I'm still mentally like an amateur. And I'm like, I get to go backstage at a pro show and see all these people I've been fans of for years.
Right.
I mean, I was like, what the hell? It's like a tourist opportunity as much as
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
And as far as like how I looked at that show, I was I was off compared to the USA's.
Right.
I I made a stupid mistake. I got to load up pretty hard, like carb wise before I get on stage. So I started like using like more like sugary sweet stuff right before I go on stage, sort of like the morning of. I wasn't putting salt on it. I was just doing like fish and rice meals days before, salting it like I always do, no problem, feeling out good. And then I just like couldn't get a pump backstage. I was like, what the hell's going on? And it didn't hit me until I got off stage. Like, fuck, I didn't salt it. And then I had some potato chips and, it kind of clicked at the night show, but it was a bit late at that point.
Yeah. Right.
But, call it a wash. I mean, I wasn't expecting to go and make any statement there.
So who impressed you when you were backstage, when you saw them up close and personal?
Kamal. I've
Oh, okay. That's right. I forgot he did that show.
Yeah, I think he got second there.
Yeah, that's right. Akeem won that one, right?
Akeem won, yeah, and
Yeah.
then Quick got third. But I had never seen anybody with skin as thin as Kamal's in person. And I was like talking to backstage a little bit. He's the nicest guy ever, I was like, I was trying not to be weird. I was like, listen, dude, can I like pinch your skin like on his It was like saran wrap. It was crazy. And the guy is literally twice as old as I am, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's just what happens when you do this for as long as he has. And it was just, Quint in person is like just gigantic. He takes up so much space just standing there. And then Akeem is like 4 feet thick, and all these. I'm another guy who's crazy backstage. That big French guy, Morgan Ast.
Yes.
Like whatever.
Yeah.
Just super peeled, giant refrigerator looking guy. But I was getting tanned behind him the night before, and I was like looking at this giant. I was like, what the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a dose of reality.
Yeah, I ended up beating him, but it was like, man, there's monsters out there.
Yeah, if they need another mountain in another Game of Thrones, he's your guy.
Yeah, right.
All right, so you have a stellar 2022, right? And now you're going into the NYpro for 2023. What are you gunning for? Are you gunning for the win? Are you gunning for top 5? What are you gunning for?
I mean, going into it, my goal going in was to get into the first call out. I figure if I could be in that mix, then I'd be satisfied. But as honestly, as I've gotten close to the show and stuff, or you start getting competitive in your head, I'm like, fuck that, I want to go win. But again, I'm not delusional. I know that if Carlos is in shape, I'm not going to beat him. Nate is always in shape. He's bigger than he seems in person. Right. Or when you see him in person, he's really big.
Yeah.
And he looks great in the lineup because of that. As far as the other guys, like the other names I've seen so far, I think I could probably beat them. Because something I got going for me is like it seems like they started rewarding shape a lot in the last year or so.
Yeah.
If you look at like the Arnold, right? Samson won that show when arguably Nick should have won it in terms of like, pose for pose. I think Nick probably won more, and he was just miles more conditioned.
Yeah.
But they gave it to Samson because Samson is incredibly impressive in those front shots.
His shape is amazing. He was one of the first elite guys I've ever interviewed, and his shape is flawless. And that's what happens when you stand next to when you stand next to Nick or you stand next to a Samson. Is at this point you're exposed now. It's like, okay, yeah, Samson's not as hard as Nick, but Nick doesn't have the shape as Samson. So which one do you go with? you know.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah,
it seems like they lean towards him a lot more.
yeah.
I mean, Carlos has got crazy shape too, though. So, I mean, um, I don't know. I don't know what'll happen there. I don't like making predictions, but
Well,
it
listen, you
seems
go
like
in
it's
there,
gonna
and I'm
happen
sure
when you
I'm
get
sure
to a
you're going
point.
to do your best, and you know, and you know, you guys have the one thing that a lot of people don't understand is the work and the drive that goes into being a top level bodybuilder is next to none. It's not. It's something that very few people understand because only very few people do it. You know, I've done it on a very, very small level, on an NPC level, but to see what, you know, what Nate's going through and what Carlos goes through, I mean, it's torture. It truly is, you know, unless you're one of those freaks of nature, like a Juan Morel that could eat, you know, cheesecake going into it, you know. But
Yeah,
most guys aren't like that, right? And it is pure torture, especially, you know, like the last month before a show. It is rough, you know, it is
I
no joke.
I gotta I gotta be honest. Like I am not quite Juan Morel, but I do get to eat a lot of food when I'm
Oh, that's
prepping.
good.
You know, because like I was saying earlier, I got to force feed myself for most of the year,
Hmm.
uh, and then I got a pretty quick metabolism. I'll get flat quick if when we really start pushing the deficit. I don't have to do a ton of cardio. I'm doing like 30 minutes right now. I don't think it'll go beyond
See,
that.
yeah, you're destined to
So,
be an elite bodybuilder. You have that Dexter Jackson kind of. I just put it together real quick, and you go in there and you fucking beat everybody. You know, it's there's like, you know, a finite amount of people like that, right? And if you're one of them, then your career is already set, as far as I'm concerned. You know, those guys that are able to have the great shape, the size, and the conditioning, and enjoy the prep. I mean,
yeah,
that's a bodybuilding career. You know, a lot of guys just hate dieting, and you know, I don't fucking blame them. I hate it too. You know, it is what it is.
everyone hates it at the end. It'll get shitty, but it
Yeah,
really
it
hasn't been
sucks.
bad yet at all. Like my
Well,
coach has got me figured out so good.
that's good.
Um, I'm eating, like I was saying, like I got to go do refeeds pretty regularly. Because I kind of, if I can't, I'm not one of those guys where you just hammer into the ground with like a ton of cardio and no food for like weeks on end. I will just disappear if you do that to me.
Right, right, right.
So you kind of got to play this flat full game where like you can't get too weak in the gym, but you also got to push down and get skinny for 3, 4,
Mm-hmm.
5 days, make some progress, and then go back up the hill and come back down. That's kind of the game I got to play.
Mm-hmm.
It's a much easier game to play than just killing yourself for weeks on end. And I know that's what a lot of guys got to do. And I'm sitting here doing my prep, and I'm like, fuck, man, they're a lot harder workers than I am because I just it that. But the harder part for me is in my off season when I'm sick all the time because I got to eat so much. So
Yeah,
pick your
yeah.
poison, I guess.
It's you know, as far as the hardworking guys, my opinion is the top level guys are hardworking. You know, the Hotties, the Nicks, the Sampsons, the Derricks, and then it kind of falls off. And you know, at the gym I go to, uh, there's a few pros that go in there,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a handful of pros, and I'm talking about like men bodybuilders. There's plenty of girls, and there's some classic guys and whatnot. And
Yeah.
there is one, two, three, four. I'm not going to mention any names except one. There's four pro bodybuilders that are in there, three open, and one 212 guy who happens to be Sean Clarita. And
Uh-huh.
out of the four, he doesn't. He makes the other guys look like they don't even train.
Yeah.
It, it, it,
He's got some crazy videos, dude. He's so strong too for how
yeah,
little he is.
when you it's he's a machine. He's a machine. And then the other guys, I'm not going to mention their names. They're well-known guys, and I'm like, no wonder you're losing. You know, I let you see them, and I'm like, you're not. There's no drive. And here's Sean Clarita, who like he's getting ready for the Olympia or the Arnold or whatnot, and it's fucking. And up until his wife got pregnant, his wife was his training partner. And
Really?
she would push him. It was unbelievable. One time I was trying to use a machine that he was using that I didn't realize he was using, and she looked at me and she goes, "Don't even fucking think about
What a
it."
great partner.
Yeah. I was like, "Oh, okay, sorry, I didn't realize." But yeah, yeah, some guys just kind of go with the flow, but I don't think you're one of those guys. I think once you put together your genetics and your talent and then you have the drive, then there's not going to be any stopping you. I don't put you in the category of, oh, I'm good enough. You know what I mean? And I think there's a lot of guys out there where it's like, yeah, it's good enough. But
I think part of that is like, if you are genetically good enough, like blessed enough to maybe turn pro, without sort of like being perfect for extended periods of time, like where you're just never off a meal plan, like you're never like missing shit.
mm,
Um, you can get away with stuff at a lower level. You may be able to get away with it in the pros, but probably not.
mm,
And maybe they get to that level and they're like, shit, like now I gotta really, pull out all the stops and like do this 110% year round. And I can't hate them for not wanting to do that, because I enjoy doing that. Like I need that structure in my life personally, but I mean, normal people just don't. I
yeah,
enjoy that. It might not be good for them though. Like someone who comes to mind, a New Jersey guy actually, is Nick Trigili. I remember I used to watch his videos a ton. That there's a guy who was like, he lived life and enjoyed himself. He went partied and shit when he was
yeah.
bodybuilding seriously, and then he got to the pro level. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but from what he's talked about with it, like he's he's just not. He didn't have that passion anymore. And in order to get to, and he had the potential to, in order to get to like the Olympia level, he would have had to probably cut out all the other noise that he had going on.
Mm-hmm.
He just didn't want to. Fair enough. I mean, they, he did win the USA's though, so that we got that in common.
Yeah, I think
Um,
he did one show. I think he did a New Jersey show. I think Atlantic City had a show.
right? Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think that I'm pretty sure that year Branch Warren won, if I'm not mistaken. I might be
yeah.
wrong. It was toward the end of Branch's career, and he went in there. I think Cedric was in that show too. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, he's one of those guys that have tremendous talent. But like you said, it's not everybody's cup of tea. He's obviously a better podcaster, YouTuber, right?
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, he's just blown up. He's playing that YouTube algorithm game perfectly. He has just exploded in the last year or so.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, he took a shit on me. I don't know if you saw it.
he took a shit on everybody though. I'm waiting. He followed me today. I'm waiting for him to shit on me. I'm kind of
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
excited.
yeah, yeah. It's like when you're in an audience of a comedy place and you get heckled. You're like, oh shit, the comedian just fucking shit on me. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm almost honored.
yeah, he shit on me, and I didn't go back at him right away because my channels. I only started my channel bodybuilding in January. I had another channel that I started 3 years ago, but it wasn't a
Yeah,
bodybuilding channel.
I was
So
watching a couple of those interviews too. Yeah,
which
all
ones?
kinds, like the older ones, on the
Yeah,
Serious Billions channel.
yeah. I call it the Outcast channel now. I have there's a lot of good interviews on that one, and it's just my thing is, and I have this problem, if you will, that I think that everybody's like me. So what I mean by that is I like learning about new things, right?
Uh,
So my attitude is like, oh, if I like learning about new things, I'm just going to make it a variety show. I'm sure plenty of other people like new things too. And it turns out that the things like bodybuilding is a niche sport, so much so that that's all bodybuilders think about. Right.
yeah, yeah,
you
it
know,
is.
So when I put up on my other channel, like I recently put up an interview of a former Ku Klux Klan member, I'm like, oh, this is gonna blow up. Shit, just garbage. Just,
You got to get
just
more clickbaity titles like Nick. Maybe that'll work.
yeah. Tell me about it. I know. So, what kind of job do you have? Because you got to work full time and you have to train and diet.
Yeah, I do like construction management kind of stuff. So like what my company does is we sell like material to construction contractors, and we also sell like engineering services. So if you have like a rack that you're putting a bunch of material and equipment and pipe in some big building, Like you need to engineer that so it's strong enough, and it'll withstand earthquakes if there are any.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Like I'm kind of in the project management side of that stuff. I got an engineering degree, but I have never used it since I graduated. You know,
yeah, join the club. You see those two degrees? You see those 2 degrees behind me? One in green and one brown.
Yeah, what
see
are
that? Yeah, that's a bachelor's and a master's. You know what I do for a living? I work in the New York City sewer system. I shovel shit every day.
Well, that's a good paying job, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great paying job. It's disgusting. It is the best paying New York City job you can get.
Well,
and
I mean,
and it is the most disgusting. Yeah. They actually, when you first get the job, they actually give you a list of diseases that you can get, and they say give it to you. They say give it to your doctor. If you get sick, tell them to check you for one of these.
Oh,
yeah, man. So, are you gonna be able to join us this Wednesday night?
Yeah, I should be able to get out of work. I got to go train. But I should be. It's like, what do you say? 8:30 Eastern.
Eastern, yeah.
Yeah, 5:30. I'll be able to get home in time. Yeah.
Oh, all right, cool. So that'll be fun because Nate isn't doing it. He's going to come back after the New York Pro, and then Carlos is hit or miss. Sometimes he shows up before, because now it's like grinding time. And I told Carlos, don't worry about it. Just get ready for the New York Pro. So it's perfect. I'm always looking for guys, to fill in. And what'll be fun is after the New York Pro, the day after the New York Pro, going to rent a studio somewhere close to we're close to Teaneck, New Jersey, where the show is going to be. And I want all the guys, because all the guys on that podcast are coming to the New York Pro. Even the guys like Danny that is out in California, Bo that is that's in, where is he?
He's a Florida guy, right?
I'm not sure. No, he's originally from Memphis. Did you watch that interview?
Dude, I was just watching the one from a few days ago. I had never heard his voice until then. Holy shit. Yeah, he's from Memphis.
Yeah. No. But watch the interview I did of him on my channel.
Yeah.
He did 15 years in jail for murder.
Really?
Yeah. The guy, after we were done, I was like, Bo, I'm glad you're my friend.
All right, that'd be nice to him,
yeah. And what's funny is I always said like legitimate tough guys are the nicest guys in the world.
Yeah.
And he's on that panel with us, and he's laughing and he's joking and whatnot, and he's cool as shit. And then he calls me up and he goes, I got a story for you. And I was like, what's up? He tells me, I was like, you want me to put you on and you can tell the story? He goes, yeah, all right. So I interviewed, I put it up last week, and when he was talking to me about it, I was like, holy shit, he's been through some fucking serious shit.
Well, yeah. I'm glad he turned his shit around, huh?
What's up?
I'm glad he turned his life around, because he's a very bodybuilder.
He got out in 2015, turned pro in 2018, won his first show in 2020.
Wicked.
Yeah. Seriously, like that is he actually intentionally transferred to one of the fucking roughest jails you could possibly go to. They called it the Thunderdome, right? It was full of gangs and white supremacists and whatnot. He actually went there purposely because they had a better weight training area. I swear to God.
There you go.
Yeah, I swear to God, you gotta. So I'll send it to you. I'll actually send you the interview.
Yeah, I'll watch that. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. All right, Stu, listen, I'm gonna let you go. I truly appreciate you coming on, man, and I truly appreciate you coming on Wednesday. It'll be fun. I don't know what I think we're gonna talk about. I think we're gonna not be so serious this week. We're gonna talk about probably stupid shit we see in the gym and the worst bodybuilding advice we ever got. So that's probably yeah. So everybody's got stories like that, and so I think that'll be, because last time it was like really, really serious with King. We talked about like you saw what we talked about where nobody's competing and so on and so forth. But we'll get back into just having some fun. Yeah, it'll be good.
All right, dude.
All right, brother. Listen, have a good night. All right. Yeah,
just shoot me a link whenever for the one Wednesday. Okay.
Absolutely, you got it, brother.
All right.
All right. Later. Night.